you're one of our haters who are out there watching.
I want to warn people about hypnoporn.
We need to stay meta.
Like, what?
If Jim would shut up for a second.
Oh, high fidelity.
Okay, don't tell me to shut up.
I'm not whining.
Wah.
I eat doggies. I eat dogs. Feels like a party.
Stop that. It's a war. They have made it so that I cannot be celebrating July 4th.
This is 6 Degrees of Stew. You don't need to stay meta, but I'm glad you're here. Hey everybody, trying something new here. I'm going to record here locally first and then do a live premiere onto YouTube and I think probably Twitch too. I'm going to see how that works, but recording here first. I have some stuff clear back from when poker, we did the 24-hour telethon, the 24-hour poker stream for him to raise money to help him out with the hit and run accident he had. So I had already covered, hold on one second, let me pull up this picture here. There we go. Perfect. I had already covered part of the two topics I was going to cover. The first one was the racial incident that happened back in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, the Rosedale incident in 1923 or 33, I believe it was. I always forget if it was 1923 or 33. Let me look real quick here. Johnstown. 1923. That was it. I covered that on a live over on Twitch. I don't have it over here on YouTube yet. But it was when in 1923, Johnstown's mayor gave every African American and Mexican immigrant who had lived in the city less than 7 years, 24 hours to leave, and about 2,000 people were uprooted. That's estimates. Some are a little lower and some go even as high as 5,000. But I covered that. And in doing the research, I also wanted to touch on Barry Black, who was a Klan leader in our area as well. So I thought I would do that today since I have the research and I have a little bit of time with my husband being down with his hurt leg at the moment and working on, between other projects. And it's raining in PA again. So I thought I would go over this and just get this little project that I had kind of sitting on the back burner out. So Barry Black, you can see him up on the screen here. That's him. That's the cover of one of our local newspapers, the Tribune Democrat. And it says, Barry Black demonstrates with fellow members of the Ku Klux Klan in front of the Cambria County Courthouse in Ebensburg in 1992. And that's one of their photos from the local paper here. So I'm going to briefly tell a little bit about Barry Black. And then I have a really good series that Duke University did, and then a podcast also called Unprecedented that I came across too, and some archival imagery and things like that. So who was Barry Black? He formed the Keystone Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, and that was a breakaway faction from the now defunct Invisible Empire Knights of the KKK. The Keystone Knights was founded by him in 1992 and was based in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. The Keystone Knights published an anti-Jewish, anti-Black newsletter called the Keystone American. In 1992, he founded them, which, as I said, was a breakaway faction of the now defunct Invisible Empire Knights of the KKK, and that was all according to the SPLC. That's the Southern Poverty Law Center. That same year, Barry Black was elected constable in Johnstown's 21st Ward, Coopersdale, with 69 write-in votes in 1991. This was 2 months after he participated in a Klan march in Greene County. In December 1991, Cambria County Judge Gerald Long denied the appointment of Black as constable, citing the man's criminal background, which included burglary, larceny, and escaping from prison. The following month, Black was sworn in as constable despite the judge's ruling, prompting the county clerk of courts to say, quote, he slipped through the cracks. But on January 15th, 1992, Cambria District Attorney Timothy Creaney filed a civil petition to remove Black from office, citing the Johnstown man's 7 convictions and saying Black is, quote, not qualified for the office of constable because of his, quote, infamous crimes. 10 days later, in an interview with the Tribune Democrat's Sandra K. Rebuck, Black said he had paid his debt to society and wanted to keep the job of constable and become a pillar of the community. But on March 6, Black led a Klan picket outside of the Cambria County Courthouse. And that is that picture that I have displayed right there. To protest the removal from his office, Black was dressed in full Klan attire. So I don't know about becoming the pillar of the community there. He was removed from office of constable in April by Judge Long. Black's attorney, Neil Price, appealed that decision to the state Supreme Court, which upheld Long's decision more than a year later. Also in the spring of 1992, Black was accused of attempting to recruit to the KKK a prisoner he was transporting from Bedford County to Cambria County Jail, and was found guilty of harassing a resident of Johnstown's West End in March, when he attempted to get a man's bowling ball from his wife's house during a domestic dispute. Black was back in the news in 1997 when he told a reporter from the Gannett News Service that Pennsylvania's KKK had more than 3,000 members and was growing, countering national reports that the organization was in decline. Then, in 1998, reports show Black helped organize and led a Klan gathering in Southwest Virginia, where the group burned a 25-foot tall wooden cross. And we're going to spend a good portion of this episode on this particular case. He was arrested for and convicted of violating the state's ban on cross burnings. The ban was rooted in a 1952 anti-cross burning law passed by the Virginia General Assembly in response to a surge in Klan activity. The law banned cross burnings on another person's property without their permission. In 1968, legislatures expanded that law to outlaw cross burnings in any public place. He sought legal help from the American Civil Liberties Union and made national headlines when the group appointed David P. Baugh, a Black attorney, to represent him. The case, Virginia versus Black, went all the way to the Supreme Court, where Baugh successfully argued that Black's right to free speech had been violated. In a 6-3 decision, the court overturned Black's conviction and struck down the Virginian statute that considered burning a cross prima facie evidence of intent to intimidate. The court did say cross burning could be seen as having, quote, an intent to intimidate, but said, quote, this sense of anger or hatred is not sufficient to ban all cross burnings. The National Constitution Center called the Supreme Court ruling complicated because it opened the door for Virginia and other states to pass laws that restricted free speech as it applies to such situations. That ruling was recalled in 2011 when Chief Justice John Roberts, who also has ties to Johnstown, his parents are from here. They're actually buried up in Westmont Cemetery, I believe. Who also has ties to Johnstown, wrote the majority opinion in the High Court's decision concerning protests at the funerals of fallen soldiers. Quote, to protect even hurtful speech on public issues to ensure that we do not stifle public debate. After the court decision, Black receded back into the movement's shadows, and the International Keystone Knights dwindled in strength, according to the SPLC. And his death. This is from Tribune Democrat, again, one of our local papers around here. And again, not doxing my location, just central PA. So like I literally am in central, rural PA with all of these bigger cities around me. A prominent white supremacist leader and former constable from Johnstown, described by the SPLC as emblematic of gutter aspects of the KKK, thanks to his lengthy criminal history, died Wednesday died last week, Wednesday, November 21st, 2018, at the age of 70. The year 1992 was when Johnstown resident Barry Black was sworn into office as constable, then stripped of that job by the Cambria County courts for previous legal troubles. Now, this article here that I am reading from that is about his death is going to talk about a Black gentleman that found out that his friend and neighbor was part of the KKK as they're announcing that Barry Black had died. That was also the year Ricky Brett learned that Black was a high-ranking officer in the KKK, a position that would eventually put Black before the U.S. Supreme Court in a landmark free speech case over cross burnings. Black, who once tried to recruit Britt to work with him as a deputy constable, died last week at age 70. Britt, who is Black, recalled his shock at learning that his white friend was a KKK Grand Dragon. Quote, "He and I were neighbors and we used to get together and play cards," Britt said. "He ate at my table many times. I knew his wife and family." Britt said he visited a club in the city's Prospect neighborhood one day in 1992, and a man asked him why he was going to work for an officer of the KKK. Black, fighting to keep his constable position, had told reporters that he planned to bring on Ricky Britt, a former sports star in Johnstown who played in the Pittsburgh Pirates system, as his deputy. That claim was in a Tribune Democrat story. Quote, "I called him and asked him if he was a big shot in the KKK," Britt recalled. "He said, 'I am, but that's not going to change our friendship, is it?' I said, 'Hell yes, it's going to change our friendship.' Our friendship was definitely strained after that. I saw him a couple of times, and we spoke generally and just went on our way." Jim White ran the Prospect Club, Everyday People. White, now retired from his role as Economic Development Coordinator of the City of Johnstown, recalled the day Britt learned of Black's background. Quote, "He was stunned because they were friends," White said. "He had no idea that this guy was the head of the Klan." In 2016, Britt became the first African American selected for the All-American Amateur Baseball Association Hall of Fame. He had played for the legendary Hahn Packing team in the 1965 Triple ABA tournament. Britt also spent 2 seasons in the Pirates farm system and played a season in the World Football League. Locally, he worked as a correctional officer at the Cambria County Prison and also served as a special deputy within the sheriff's office. In 2017, Britt was voted onto Johnstown City Council. So quite a unique little story in our area of this KKK dragon, leader who starts the Keystone Knights, founded, does all these things, and his friend next, neighbor, they ate, they hung out and everything. There's more stories about this in our local papers. He was friends. He didn't know all these years. Over all those years. And it was quite a shock to him. And the guy was kind of like a local hometown hero, with his baseball career and things of that nature. So a little interesting, side note there. And the guy, Barry Black's case goes all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, a major landmark freedom of speech case, whether, what side you lie on with the cross burning debate. And we're going to get into that now here. Let me close down my notes here because I don't need that. I think we'll start with this podcast, and I will post this. Oh, there's no chat because I am recording this locally. I'm used to being live. I'll post it whenever I do it live up there then. Okay, so I'm going to share this screen here now. Let me get this off. We will start with playing. It's unprecedented. Bodily harm is coming. Is burning a cross so intimidating as to not deserve First Amendment protection? To a Ku Klux Klan member, a flaming cross is a beautiful symbol of racial purity. To many Americans, it is the image of racist intimidation. But what is it to the Supreme Court? And is it protected by the Constitution? In the emotionally charged case, Virginia versus Black, the KKK learns the difference between intent and historical perception. with unexpected assistance from an African American ACLU lawyer. Plus, a Supreme Court justice breaks his year-long silence. So we'll listen to this, and as I do, then I'm going to jump over to when they break in to play the Virginia versus Black Duke University series as well. So let me, okay.
We wasn't here to kill nobody. We wasn't here to run nobody off. We wasn't here to intimidate nobody. We just here to initiate a few new members, move on out of here to the next rally. They're not really haters. I wouldn't flag them as haters. I just flag them as a religious group that believes in what they believe in.
A few hundred yards off of Brushy Fork Road in Cana, Virginia, there is a field at the edge of the woods.
I grew up.
This is my colleague Matt.
Hey there,
Doing,
Joey.
brother?
Buddy Matt.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir, buddy.
I'm
Yes,
Matt.
Sir. Yes, sir. Joey Seacrease. How y'all doing today?
In the summer of 1998, several chapters of the Ku Klux Klan gathered here with the permission of the property owners, Annie Lee Seacrest and her son Joey.
My name is Joey Seacrease, and I've lived here in Cana, Virginia for 55 years.
Joey still lives here. He's not a member of the Klan.
I'm going to pause real quick to show you what Joey looks like. Hold on one second. This is Joey. If you wanted to get an image of the guy they're talking to right now, that's Joey Seacrest right there. And his home in Canaan, Virginia. Joey Seacrest right there. That's the man talking. Okay.
But he was present that night when they held a rally, when they burned a giant cross.
I'll go out here and show you. Y'all like to walk?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. What happened here more than 20 years ago led to a Supreme Court battle over the First Amendment. Is cross burning constitutionally protected speech? I'm Mike Volo,
I'm Matthew Schwartz.
and this is Unprecedented.
We wanted to see for ourselves where this infamous cross burning took place. So we headed down to Cana, Virginia. It's a rural town of rolling farmland on the border with North Carolina.
About 1,200 people live in Cana. It's not quite 100% white, but it's close.
This is a growed up area down in here. We just old redneck.
We just old rednecks. I love this guy. He's a racist.
Ticks here? I don't have
Why?
Yeah, you probably will.
I probably will.
They like him kind of short.
So what, I got to check my legs later?
The Keystone Knights was a Klan chapter out of Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It was founded in the early 1990s by a guy named Barry Black, who went by the title Imperial Wizard.
And Barry Black was the guy that I showed you. We pop this right back up again in case you need a visual for what we're talking about. Barry Black. That's who we're talking about. That's from my local area here. Barry Black from Johnstown, PA.
Mr. Black died recently, but here he is some years ago talking to a Duke University professor about why he made the 6-hour trip to Cana.
Okay, that's where we're going to pause, and then we will return here. I was just setting this up, so we'll return back to Unprecedented, and we're going to go to the Virginia versus Black Duke University series here. Okay, let me pull this up. Okay. Exit full screen. Okay. Show this tab instead. Back it up because I watched this. And I will put all this down too. When I premiere this so that people have the links, this Duke Law University site is really good. As you can see, it has other cases and things that you can look up. Really good site. Okay, we don't need the trailer. Okay, we're gonna make this bigger. Make sure it's showing excellent. Are there captions? Perfect. There we go.
Some lawyers might hesitate to represent someone whose views clashed with their own. David Baugh, a successful African-American lawyer in Richmond, Virginia, was faced with what for many might be a tough choice when a potential client was a leader of the Ku Klux Klan. But Baugh, an active member of the American Civil Liberties Union, knew from personal experience the importance of having a good lawyer.
I went to an historically black college for undergrad, and about 1969, 1970, Virginia decided that it wasn't going to meet its integration guidelines for its colleges. So what it decided to do was to take some of the black schools and break them up and move them to white schools. And we said, no, you're not. So there were a series of demonstrations, and I ended up getting expelled. And while sitting in court, watching my ACLU lawyers defend me, I thought, this looks like something I ought to be doing. So I decided to go to law school my senior year.
After graduating from law school, Baugh started practicing criminal law. He was willing to take controversial cases to protect what he thought were important principles.
I remember once I got cited for contempt, one of many times I got cited for contempt, and my wife said, you know, we better have a little chat about this because the girls are going to bed and it's going to be in the paper tomorrow. My wife told the children, she said, you're going to see something in the paper tomorrow. Now, if
I
you were
bet.
walking down the street and you saw a dragon, what would you do? And they said, oh, I'd run or I'd hide or I'd do this. Yes, you would. But there are some people in this world who live to fight dragons. And when they see a dragon, they grab a sword and they go after it. Your father kills dragons.
Baugh is an active member of the ACLU in Virginia. He recalls his first involvement with Barry Black, a Ku Klux Klan leader from Pennsylvania who'd been arrested in Carroll County, Virginia.
I got an email that a Klansman in the western part of the state had been arrested for cross burning. It is illegal to burn a cross with intent to intimidate. And anytime you burn a cross, there's a presumption that there is an intent to intimidate. Kind of makes it easy to nail it. So I read this statute and I went, how in the name of all that's good and holy can that pass constitutional muster? So I called and said, you know, if you need somebody to take this case, I'll take it. A lot of people say, well, how could you defend a Klan? It's a no-brainer. I understand that the Constitution is a set of principles, and if you're going to protect my right to say what I want to say, I have to defend that guy. It's easy to defend a friend, but when an enemy is having the principles you believe in violated, that's a chance to do the right thing.
Rod Smola, a law professor specializing in constitutional law, also volunteered to work on the case.
Once we decided to take it, of course, the question on the table, sitting around thinking about it, was, will this person, Barry Black, head of the Ku Klux Klan, accept as his legal team a liberal white lawyer, law professor, and a well-known African-American lawyer? I actually said, you know, we probably better let him know, David, that you're black. But he didn't have any problem with it. He said, sure, fine, I appreciate the representation, and we took it from there.
The case had already generated lots of publicity. Once Baugh took the case, there was a news story. An African-American lawyer was representing a Klansman.
I was being interviewed, and they said, well, you know, what's it like representing someone who wouldn't invite you to their house for a meal? I said, I've never been to a client's house for a meal. I've never been to my doctor's house for a meal. It's a professional relationship.
I don't think they knew about his
Assume
black neighbor who was his friend.
The defense of someone in a criminal case, that you endorse or condone the behavior or allegations against your client. If Mr. Black had been in a horrible accident being driven back to Pennsylvania and was taken to a hospital in this state, his life could have been saved by a black doctor, a Pakistani doctor, a Jewish doctor. No one would say anything about it. No one would care. But because the lawyer comes in, they go, aha. If you're undertaking a case and you feel a need to distance yourself from your client, that's a conflict. Well, I didn't think anyone was going to accuse me of being a closet Klansman. So I thought I was the perfect person for the case.
Not that Baugh didn't have second thoughts.
When you do things because of principle or professionalism, and that's what it is, every once in a while you stop and think, wait a minute, what the hell was I thinking? Especially when this press started coming in. And I called my dad within
I can't imagine.
because he's not a lawyer. He's a fighter pilot, he's a retired colonel. And I said, I just took this case. He said, you ought to. You know, big deal.
Baugh recalls when he first met Barry Black.
He thought that, he would show himself to be a real nice guy and all that sort of stuff. And I explained to him, I said, no, wait. You have the right to be a bigot. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to have a kumbaya moment. I'm not trying to convert you. You have a right to say that, and my job is to protect you.
Baugh describes what had happened leading up to Black's arrest.
The allegation was that the Klansmen came down from Pennsylvania, met with the Klansmen here, and they decided to have a rally. They rented a site where they were going to have their rally, and the owner of the property was there. A little old lady was sitting up on the porch watching them, and they served hot dogs and hamburgers and railed on about, streets running red with blood and all this sort of stuff. And at the conclusion, they put their outfits on and they erect their Porto cross, which was like a 30-foot metal cross wrapped with rags. And I was going to say burned it. I have learned that if you want to know if someone's a Klansman, ask them about that process, and they'll say, no, it's a cross lighting. Burning is about destruction. Lighting is illumination. That's when you know you're talking to a Klansman.
As an initial step, Baugh needed to develop a strategy for the case.
When looking at a criminal case, the first defense is the acts did not occur. The next one is, if they did occur, there's an explanation. The third one is, the acts occurred, there is no legal explanation, such as an affirmative defense. Therefore, I have to whack the statute. Because I couldn't say he didn't burn a cross, and I couldn't very well say that he hadn't violated the statute, the way the statute was written with the presumption thrown in there. So the only challenge was to challenge the statute.
Baugh's challenge to the statute was based on freedom of speech under the First Amendment.
No one in a free society has the right to walk around feeling comfortable or not intimidated or to feel warm and huggy and fuzzy. In a country like ours, you have the right to say what you want to say. Well, the corresponding responsibility is you have to listen to crap that you don't want to hear. Mr. Black had the right to stand in the middle of a field and say, I hate all African Americans, or I hate Jews. He can say that. No one would say a thing about it. He could hold up a sign, I hate all African Americans, I hate all Jews. That should be protected. Well, the question is, can he symbolically make the same statement? And the answer is yes. One of the scary things about a democracy is dependent upon an educated and intelligent populace in order to succeed, which means every idea needs to be discussed. Every idea needs to be debated so we can decide whether or not it's an idea we want to keep or an idea we want to chuck.
Baugh intentionally stayed away from presenting detailed history of the Klan or its rituals.
I'm sure there are Klansmen who say, oh, yeah, it could be defended. It could be explained that this isn't a cross burning, it's an illumination, and we're not anti-Black, we're pro-European. I mean, that's fine. I thought the likelihood of my being able to convince a group of jurors of that was really damn slim. Mm-hmm. So we'll just stick to the facts, keep the issues narrow, keep it on the elements of the offense, because that's what's going up on appeal.
The case was tried in Carroll County before an all-white jury.
We went through a lot of jurors, and there were a lot of people who had opinions. I don't think I found anyone who was had an opinion in favor of the Klan. And they'll tell you, look, I have an opinion about the Klan. I have expressed it. I could not be fair and impartial. If I was him, I would not want me on this jury. See ya. And so voir dire was a little longer than most cases.
At trial, Baugh emphasized that the cross burning was not directed against anyone in particular.
So the defense was there was no intent to intimidate. It wasn't aimed at anyone. It was something that they were doing amongst themselves.
The jury found Black guilty, but only imposed a $2,500 fine with no jail time. While disappointed that Black had been convicted, Baugh was pleased with the light punishment.
Well, anytime you walk out the front door of the courtroom and your client goes with you, that's a victory. And when the trial was over, we walked out.
The case was appealed, and Rod Smolla took over primary responsibility for the case. It eventually ended up in the Supreme Court. Baugh recalls the oral argument. In particular, Baugh was upset when Justice Clarence Thomas expressed his opinion that cross-burning was historically a symbol of terror.
It is.
My understanding that we had almost 100 years of lynching and activity in the South by the Knights of Camellia and
Terrifying.
the Ku Klux Klan. And this was a reign of terror, and the cross was a symbol of that reign of terror.
When Justice Thomas took the direction that he took that away from a legal argument. I will tell you that I can understand why Justice Thomas would do what he did, but
Just the mere mention of one is terrifying.
I was disappointed. I was disappointed. I did not think that he was being the
Because of historical associations. I mean,
He
you can't
became-
blame anyone for that.
He became an advocate outside the record.
The
Honestly.
Supreme Court ruled in Black's favor, and the conviction was reversed. David Baugh was proud of his work in the case in support of his vision of the Constitution.
Every time someone goes to trial in a criminal case, the Constitution of the United States is being tested. Every time we get through a case without bending or spindling or mutilating the protections of the Constitution, America has been saved.
Okay. We'll go back to the podcast here for a little bit and play some more of this. And then we'll jump back to the second part.
I was doing down there was starting a new den or starting a new clavern, giving the people the books to read, telling the people what we expect of them and how we want them to become pillars in their community.
I asked Joey Seacrest how it was that Barry Black and the Keystone Knights came to hold their proselytizing rally at his place.
How it got started was a friend named Jimmy Jones.
Jimmy Jones.
And he was a good friend of me and Mother's. And he approached us one day out here and said, what do y'all think about us having a Klan rally? He said, I got some good friends in Pennsylvania that want to come to this area, have a rally, a get-together, initiate new members. They've always been nice to me, and that whole crew, I mean, they were hundreds of them, all just like my brother.
Just like my brother.
Really, really nice people.
So nice.
So you didn't participate in the rally, but it sounds like you shared their beliefs?
I do.
I do.
I do share their beliefs. I'm a strong believer of them. I really am. I'm a strong believer of them. Proud supporter, very much so. I can call any of them any day,
Thank God the Klan has dwindled in strength
They'll be at my
and
age
relevance.
the next day if I really need them. They're just that kind of people.
Two longtime members of the Keystone Knights are still around. We met them at their double-wide trailer in Pennsylvania on a summer afternoon. They had fans running to keep us all cool as they talked about that day in Cana.
Lisa Penrod, and I was the woman commander and the imperial secretary for the Invisible Empire International Keystone Knights of the Ku Klux Klan.
Donald Penrod, and I was just a member.
So there was a group of you that went down, and what did you do when you got there?
Got things ready and set up.
Set up for what?
Our ceremony that night and the speeches.
We had that cross to put together and get it hooked up. It was in sections. I had it made to screw together. Wrap it with burlap and stuff and light it.
You wrapped it with burlap?
Burlap and soak it with diesel fuel or kerosene with motor oil in it.
And so what did you expect was going to happen that night? You thought it was going to be just like any other rally?
Yeah.
Right. Well, there were probably, 6, 8 speakers got up and talked about, separating the races and keeping the blood pure. And, there was no derogatory talk or anything like that. It was
I'm sure there was no derogatory talk or anything like that. Just separate the races, keep the blood pure. Nobody said anything mean or hurtful.
just a normal night.
Normal.
So after the speeches were done, what happened that night?
Went to the ceremony and lit the cross.
The way the Penrods talk about the Klan, they make it sound like just another social club. They had meetings twice a month, ran clothing drives for the needy.
And wore robes and held cross burnings, like the one in Joey Seacrest's field.
And where?
We're going to come back to Joey Seacrest talking about his field. We're going to go to the second part of the party narrative here on the Duke website here. I need to refresh the page here. Hold on. There we go.
America lost its stamina and lost its victory in the 60s.
This is Barry Black.
The civil rights
KKK.
become effective. That's when America started going downhill. And it's going to continue to go downhill till we do something about it.
Barry Black is a Ku Klux Klan leader from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. In 1998, he was arrested and convicted in Virginia for violating a statute that prohibited burning a cross. His case eventually was decided by the Supreme Court in an important First Amendment decision. Black's involvement with the Klan began at an early age.
I joined the Klan. I joined in the youth corps. I can remember going to Stone Mountain, Georgia, and James Venable sitting there, and I was talking in the background, a young person acting a fool, and he stopped everything. He says, "Would you please tell us what you have to say, Mr. Black?" And I just mummied up. I didn't know what to do. But then at the end, he told everybody, "This man here is going to be your Imperial Wizard someday."
During the 1990s, Black was a Kleagle involved in recruiting new members to the Klan.
My job right now is to build an organization that will establish itself so history will repeat itself. The Klan is my life. I tell all my Klansmen, you have three things in your life that means everything to you. First should be your family. Second should be your job. And third should be the Klan. Of course, I'm backwards. The first one is the Klan, then it's my family, and then my job.
Ew.
He later became the Imperial Wizard for the Invisible Empire Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. He firmly believed in the Klan's mission.
People say the Ku Klux Klan is a hate organization.
Yes.
I have no hate in my heart for anybody. If we all take time to look at what's going on around us right now, we can see where America is in a travesty. The New World Order is taking
New
over.
World
A
Order.
white man can go out and get a job, but he's not going to get a job making good money. A white man has to go out and get a job digging a ditch because he's got two criteria against him already. One, he's not a woman, and two, he's not black. I don't want to sound like I'm a bigot. I do want to sound like I'm a racist because I am a racist. I believe that my pigmentation is my suit of armor. That's my skin. That's my people.
In August 1998, a group from Virginia invited him to attend a rally to try to establish a Klan chapter known as a clavern in Carroll County, Virginia.
What I was doing down there was starting a new den or starting a new clavern, giving the people the books to read, telling the people what we expect of them and how we want them to become pillars in their community.
Cannot believe this guy was a constable.
Event.
There was a plaque, a piece of paneling.
That's how these people get in through write-ins. Vote locally.
5, and it says,
Run for offices. If
private gathering, public not invited. At that time, the sheriff came by and seen it and seen what was going on. And he asked us what we was doing. We're out in the middle of a cow pasture. We're not going to bother nobody. This is a private gathering.
The rally began with the group reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. Then any Klansman was permitted to speak to the crowd. Black recalls what some of the speakers said that day.
There was probably about 40, 50 people there. We had a little stage set up, and we were all standing around talking about what's going on in America today. We did talk about Mr. Clinton. We did talk about the NAFTA and the GATT agreement and how all of our workforce was being taken away, how our jobs, how our people were being put in poverty.
As the Imperial Wizard, Black would be the last to speak. The culmination of the meeting, as in all Klan rallies, involved setting fire to a large cross. Black explains the significance to the Klan of the cross ritual.
We do not burn the cross. We light the cross. We light it not to desecrate it. We like to signify to everyone that Christ is alive and Christ is well, even if it's just in our hearts and not in yours.
Ugh.
Black explains
The
how the cross was
bastardization.
lit.
There was a little pop-up camper that was made into a rally wagon. And what you do, you go up and you set it up, and you take 3 6-foot lengths of pipe, and you screw them together. Then you stand the cross up and you wrap it, and you soak it in kerosene, and you light it. It was not put up to intimidate anyone. It was put up so that the new people that were joining the Klan would be able to attend a cross lighting ceremony and see how we do it.
Black describes in detail what happens during the ceremony.
We have a circle and made up people with torches around the cross. We take the Klan into the future by walking to the right around the cross. At that time, I would say, hut. Everyone would stop. We would turn into the cross. They would follow my lead. I would lower my torch. I'd say, in the name of the Father, I'd raise it up. In the name of the Son, I'd raise it up. In the name of the Holy Ghost, and I'd raise it up. At that time, I'd say, Klansmen, right face. And they would turn and counter-march back around the cross. Now I'm taking them back into the past. I'd say, in the name of our venerated dead, and everybody march back clockwise around the clock again. The Klansmen would walk into the cross, lay the torches at the bottom of the cross, walk back, don't never turn your back to the cross. Once the cross is completely lit, I'd say, Klansmen, salute.
God, he's so
And that's
proud of
when they
it.
would open their arms out in the sign of the cross. You'd hear music in the background playing Amazing Grace. And you'd hear someone say, behold the fiery cross, still illuminating the sky brilliantly. We do not like this cross to desecrate this cross. We like this cross to signify that Christ is alive throughout not only in our hearts, throughout the world. Only fire lights the dark. Only fire purifies the stubble, the wood, the gold and silver, and purifies it. God give us men. God give us strong sun-crowned men. God give us men who will not flinch at the call of duty.
While the cross was blazing, local police officers, including Sheriff Manning from Carroll County, drove their police car up to the property and confronted the group. According to Black, the police officers were threatening to arrest the elderly woman who owned the property.
Somebody come flying up through the field in this four-wheel drive Jeep and slid to a stop and started screaming that they were going to arrest this old woman. And I said, excuse me, you're not arresting nobody. He said, oh, but we are. And I said, well, maybe chivalry and honor and courage is only in the north anymore, because there sure isn't any down south here, because you would never threaten an old woman like that. I have leased this property for 72 hours.
An old woman hosting the Klan.
If you're going to arrest somebody for just exerting and their freedom of assembly, then arrest me. And he says, well, then you're under arrest. And I said, let's go.
Black was taken to the courthouse in Hillsville,
chivalrous
Virginia,
of you,
and booked
Barry
on
Black.
charges of illegally burning a cross. He believes he was a victim of a conspiracy among civil rights leaders and the government to hurt him and the Klan.
Sheriff Manning is a two-faced liar, and his deputy is a two-faced liar. They are rogue police officers, and I would say that to their face. My name is on the hit list as one of the people that you have to fear for being a fraternalist, for organizing the Ku Klux Klan. They want me out of the picture. Their philosophy is, if you take the horse's head off, the body does not exist.
Black attempted to find a local attorney to represent him.
No one would represent me. They said, well, we know all about the case, but we can't represent you, man. We'll be ostracized. I won't even be able to be a dog catcher around here if I represent you.
Black then asked the Virginia chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union to represent him. David Baugh, a criminal defense lawyer from Richmond, agreed to take the case.
So I called and said, if you need somebody to take this case, I'll take it. A lot of people say, well, how could you defend a Klan? It's a no-brainer. I understand that the Constitution is a set of principles, and if you're going to protect my right to say what I want to say, I have to defend that guy.
When I walked into the courthouse, I just looked at him. He says, is there something wrong here? And I says, you're David Ball. He said, yeah. I said, you're black. He said, yeah. I said, are you going to fight for me? Are you going to give me 151%? He says, I'm not going to change your views. He says, and my views about you aren't the greatest in the world either. He says, but I will give you 151%. You have my word on that, sir. He says, I'll defend you to the end. And I says, good enough.
At trial, the prosecution put on evidence that speakers at the rally were urging Klan members to take their guns and shoot blacks.
There's nothing like that was said. I do remember one gentleman standing up there and saying something what would happen today if we would have went to the mantle and took our musket off and defended our country?
Oh, I don't
No one said anything about
remember.
shooting anyone. I looked at the lawyer and I told him, I said, sir, that was not said. And Mr. Ball at the time told me, he said, shh, be quiet. I'm your lawyer. You hired me to be your mouthpiece. You let me do the talking.
Another point made at trial was that a black family drove by the scene and sped away when they saw the burning cross.
Sheriff Manning said, well, there was a guy in a station wagon with his family that came down there, and they seen the cross lighting, and they sped off. My response to him was, sir, you're the sheriff. Doesn't your car have lights and a siren on it and a radio in it? If they were so fearful, who were they? Why didn't you track them down? He had no answer for me because
so
there was no
pompous.
such thing that happened. That was just a made up, that was a rogue cop theory. That's all.
Black was convicted, and the jury's punishment was for him to pay a $2,500 fine. He could have paid the fine and ended the matter, but he insisted upon an appeal.
I can't just say, hey, no, here's $2,500, forget it. If I did that, I'm letting my race down. I have to make people know that America is still a land of opportunity, that America is still a land of democracy, and that the Constitution of the United States of America still means something.
Fighting the case came at a cost. It received extensive publicity, and Black suffered as a result.
The publicity of this case was outrageous. I had people
Outrageous.
firebombing my house, shooting my house. I had a lot of adversity about my children in school. I lost my job. They tried to take my house away from me. My health went down. I got a bad heart. I had my back fused together. I mean, I'm basically disabled.
Oh my
It about cost me my marriage, everything. It killed me because they had it in the paper every day, every day.
The case ended up in the Supreme Court. Black did not
Hate'll
attend
do
the
that
oral
to ya.
argument, but was upset when Justice Clarence Thomas spoke out strongly against the Klan during the argument.
You talk about Mr. Thomas, Clarence Thomas. Where does anyone get off calling me a bigot when if that guy wasn't racist and wasn't a bigot, I never seen one in my life? I'm glad he did that because he showed just how racist and how hateful the black race is to the white race.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what he did by doing that. You take Martin Luther King. He was a communist, that he was put down there to cause trouble. He caused so much trouble for Kennedy's it wasn't funny. They made a
Jesus.
martyr out of him because he did what he thought was right for his race. I'm only doing what I think's right for my race.
Oh, you're just like
Black's
MLK.
conviction was overturned
outta
by the
here.
Supreme Court, which held that the Virginia statute was unconstitutional.
I did not win a battle. I did not win a war. The Constitution of the United States won it for me because they knew it was illegal to begin with. That victory went worldwide. I set case precedence. I set case law.
Worldwide,
And we
not
proved
everybody
that
has
the law
a US
does work.
Constitution,
Yet.
dummy.
I can light across anywhere in the United States of America that I want to
I
light
hate
it.
that people think our
as long as I'm
Constitution
not doing
extends
it to
outside of the
intimidate
U.S.
Anybody. How they perceive it is how they perceive it.
But Black remains angry and is seriously considering filing suit against all those who he believed conspired to bring the case against him.
I'm going to sue them. I'm going to sue the pants off them. I'm going to go from the sheriff to the deputy sheriff that lied, to the people that lied. I'm going to sue everybody and anybody that I can sue. They're going to pay.
Okay, back to. We'll finish the podcast and we'll come to the aftermath here. Oops. Hold on one second.
There we go. Oh,
there we go.
They had
Sorry.
meetings twice a month, ran clothing drives for the needy,
and wore robes and held cross burnings, like the one in Joey Seacrest's field.
And where exactly was the cross?
Well, I'll tell you something.
Well, I'll tell you something.
I don't know about 100% spot, but I can put you close. It's, this has all been cleared off here. This is all woods here at the time. This has all been cleared off. But that cross. I mean, take a look around you how far we off from the road. off the road. I mean, 300 yards. I mean, basically back in the woods.
Yeah.
But it's right in this area, right in here. It's just like a 25-foot radius right here. It was here in this area here.
What did it look like when it was lit up?
You ain't never seen one?
No.
Have you ever looked on the internet?
I've seen it on the internet, yeah.
That's what it looks like.
What does it look like in person?
Well, I ain't never seen but one live, and it was right here. It's the only one I've ever seen live. The beautifulest thing in the world of the Klan.
The beautiful thing in the world to the Klan.
About to you.
I love it.
I love it. Ugh.
We all lit the cross. We all had torches and went through the ceremony. And then at the end, the Imperial Wizard would light the cross. And then we would all take our torches and put them on the bottom.
You light it at the bottom, and there's streamers like this that go out to the two arms of the cross and light them.
Once the cross is completely lit, I'd say, Klansmen, salute.
Here again is Barry Black talking to that Duke University professor.
You'd hear music in the background playing Amazing Grace. And you'd hear someone say, "Behold the fiery cross," still illuminating the sky brilliantly.
It's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
What does it mean to you? Like, why do you light up the cross?
Fire purifies. The cross itself does not burn. Even the wooden crosses, they don't burn. Just the wrapping burns. And it shows the purity because fire purifies gold. So that's the symbol, it's racial purity.
So the cross is lit, illuminated. And at what point did things start changing?
It was all over. That's when the sheriff's department showed up.
Back in the field, Joey points to the spot where a police vehicle had been parked.
And if you'll look right over the top of that house right over in yonder, you'll see a big oak tree right over there.
Mm-hmm.
See that twin oak tree?
I do.
That's where he backed his patrol car in and watched the whole thing until it's all over with.
My name's Rick Clark. At the time of this case, I was a lieutenant in the Carroll County Sheriff's Office.
At that big old oak tree is where we are now with Rick Clark, who was watching the rally, listening to Carolina Beach music on the radio, like he always did.
Miss Grace is considered the best beach music tune of all times. I played it all the time. One of the neighbors called, I don't recall who, and said there was a large gathering there. So we responded. And they weren't doing anything wrong, so we didn't go over there.
So you stayed back over here where we are now.
Right. And we could see the people.
What did you see when you looked out there?
There was probably
scene.
50 to 100 people milling about. I think somebody was giving a speech or doing something, talking.
And so once you saw the cross go up, what did you think?
It was a classic felony to burn a cross in Virginia at that time.
And you knew that because you knew the code?
Yes.
How did you know the code? Because I heard a rumor that you are sort of a bookish guy and you like to spend your free time reading through the Virginia code book.
That might be the truth.
You know what? Kudos to him, like being the book nerd cop who's like, yeah, I read code, and I knew that he was breaking the law. And I do think the Supreme Court did rule right in this, and like later on when we get to it, like local states eventually like tailor their laws so that it's in compliance with the Supreme Court ruling on freedom of speech, but that you can't do different things in their statutes with cross burnings and intimidation and different things. So the states do find workarounds to this Supreme Court case. There are things that transpire with it, but I do think the ruling was the right one, despite it being hate. And, obviously my family's biracial, and I'm not pro KKK or cross burnings or anything like that. But the Constitution held, with freedom of speech. And, Yeah, that is what it is.
Section 18.2 of the Virginia Code. It shall be unlawful for any person with the intent of intimidating to burn a cross. The law goes on to say that if you do burn a cross, it is presumed that you did it with the intent to intimidate somebody.
And so when you saw the cross lit up, you got in the patrol car and you drove up this road towards the property. And what did you do?
We approached. I said, "Who lit the cross?" And Black said, "I did." And I placed him under arrest for cross burning.
Put handcuffs on him?
I did. And Black immediately started into this rhetoric that the good white people here were tired of. He used a racially.
Of course he did, but he said he was so nice about it.
Black people holding hands with white women walking up and down the sidewalks. And I just asked him, I said, "Have you seen a sidewalk since you got here?" And he said, "No." I said, "That's because there are no sidewalks in this community."
Had you ever seen a cross burning before? What was it like?
It made me sad that there was somebody that represented that kind of hate in the county where I live and I was raising my children at the time.
We asked the Penrods if they ever intended to intimidate anyone when they lit the cross.
I wonder, of all the times you lit the cross, did you ever do it to intimidate somebody?
No. No.
You always just did it for your religious ceremony?
Yes.
Where I ever was, there was really nobody around to intimidate.
We posed the same question to Joey Seacrest. Did you think it seemed intimidating?
Shit, no. I'd have another today. I'd have another one. No questions asked. We wasn't here to kill nobody. We wasn't here to run nobody off. We wasn't here to intimidate nobody. We just here to initiate a few new members, move on out of here.
Because, you know, the officer, somebody said that a couple of black people were driving through.
Oh, shit. You couldn't melt down a black man before he out around the Klan rally.
Ugh.
Why was he doing here anyway? Only reason he'd been here is trying to get in.
Trying to get in?
Well, I guess what they said is like maybe somebody driving past. Where's the closest road?
Right there. About 400 yards, eh?
Yeah, that's pretty far.
Now, we'll tell you this. Y'all can say what you want to, and you'll find out when you get on down the road that I'm telling you the truth. You sound stupid. Don't laugh. Wait, you leave to laugh. Barry Black had a black lawyer.
David Baugh.
David Baugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a black lawyer.
What do you think about that?
This is pretty crazy, man.
Oh my gosh.
Shit. Oh, man, I don't know. You know, I heard about that when all that stuff went on. I heard about it, and I thought, what the hell, man? That blows my head right off, man. Ain't no shit.
There's something unique about the legal profession where the public thinks whenever you represent someone, you condone their behavior.
Yep.
This is attorney David Baugh. He worked with the Virginia chapter of the ACLU.
People assume that if you represent a pedophile, when the trial's over, you put on a raincoat and go to the playground. No, it's not that at all. You represent someone for what they are accused of doing. Plus, I realize from my education and the philosophy of the law that for every right that you have, there is a corresponding responsibility. So if you want the right to speak freely, that means you have to listen to a lot of stupid garbage. You even have to defend people who say stupid garbage so they can say stupid garbage. A lot of people assume that under the First Amendment, you have a right not to have to hear things that make you uncomfortable. And that is not a right. People have the right to say things to you that make you uncomfortable, as long as there is no imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand how come a white lawyer might not want to be associated with the Klan, but no one's going to accuse me of being a closet Klansman.
Now, hang on. This is radio. This is a podcast right now, so people might not quite understand what you're getting at.
Well, he's a Klansman.
Okay.
I'm African American. Oh, I'm African American. That's right.
When I walked into the courthouse, I just looked at him.
Once again, Barry Black.
He says, "Is there something wrong here?" And I says, "You're David Ball." He said, "Yeah." I said, "You're black." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you going to fight for me?" Are you going to give me 151%? He says, I'm not going to change your views. He says, and my views about you aren't the greatest in the world either.
And then I went on to say, besides, when I look at you, I can see the N-word just spilling off your lip, buddy. So we're not going to take warm showers and be pals and sing Kumbaya. That ain't going to happen.
He says, but I will give you 151%. You have my word on that, sir. He says, I'll defend you to the end. And I says, good enough.
Like most clients who are in serious trouble, he was cordial, but I assumed that I had the only life preserver and he was drowning. So I don't know if he liked me or he liked my life preserver, but I had it. I had the ring buoy. So I'm flinging it, so he's going to grab it. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Barry Black was convicted by a jury. He did burn a cross, after all, and the law, well, you heard the former cop, Rick Clark. He said it was a felony. Barry Black was fined $2,500. But David Baugh and lots of First Amendment lawyers continued to believe that Virginia's statute was unconstitutional.
After the break, we'll talk about why that seemed so obvious to so many lawyers, and what happened when a certain Supreme Court justice broke his silence on the bench. Stick around.
Okay, now we're going to finish this last part here on the Duke Law website, the aftermath, and then we'll finish the podcast. Okay. Make sure that's sharing. Oh, why is it so big? Oh, I guess that's just the way it is. Okay, there we go.
The Supreme Court issued its opinion in Virginia versus Black on April 7th, 2003.
When there's a big Supreme Court decision and you're a lawyer involved, your phone starts ringing off the hook. CNN's calling you and the New York Times calling. So you're flipping through, trying to figure it. I'm reading, and I read the first sentence, and I think, well, no, I won. I read the second sentence, no, I lost. And then I get through the first set of opinions by Justice O'Connor, and I wasn't sure.
The court's opinion in the case was complex. The main opinion, written by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, held that burning a cross is a form of speech generally protected by the First Amendment, and that the government cannot outlaw a symbol just because it's distasteful or even despicable. However, a majority of justices ruled that because true threats are not protected by the First Amendment, a state can prohibit cross-burning if it's done with the intent to threaten or intimidate someone. Justice Thomas wrote an impassioned dissent, arguing that cross-burning should always be illegal because of its inherently threatening nature.
I mean, the court has some very strong language that says cross-burning can be a protected ritual under the First Amendment. On the other hand, the court did not accept the biggest argument I was making, which is that you should never be able to have a cross-burning law.
So see there, you can
Instead,
still
just
have
ordinary threat laws.
cross-burning
It's a very
laws.
dangerous path to go down. Do you want governments browsing the universe of symbols and starting to pick out those symbols that most scare it?
Barry Black's conviction was overturned. The court held that the portion of the Virginia statute that allowed a jury to presume an intent to intimidate from the act of cross-burning was unconstitutional. The prosecution has to prove a specific intent to intimidate in each case. The court found that there was insufficient evidence presented of Black's intent to threaten. Both sides saw the court's opinion as a victory.
Absolutely, Virginia won. The court said that cross-burning, it may be singled out for the especially harsh treatment that it deserves. And while there may be cases of cross-burning rallies and that kind of thing where there is no intent to intimidate, when you talk about shooting blacks with a .30-30 over a loudspeaker, those are acts of intimidation, and juries will have no problem finding that to be so.
Yep. I can light a cross anywhere in the United States of America that I want to light it, as long as I'm not doing it to intimidate anybody. How they perceive it is how they perceive it.
It's a fine line there,
I did not
buddy.
win a battle. I did not win a war. The Constitution of the United States won it for me because they knew it was illegal to begin with.
Every time someone goes to trial in a criminal case, the Constitution of the United States is being tested. Every time we get through a case without bending or spindling or mutilating the protections, of the Constitution, America has been saved.
That victory went worldwide. I set case presence, I set case law, and we proved that the law does work yet.
There we go. Oh, pause. And let me, 1 second. I was in the middle of touching up a nail. Let me fix this real quick or else it'll be all messed up and then I'll open up this photo gallery. Sorry. Apologies. I just had a little chip out of my nail. And thought that video clip was a little longer because the other ones were. Okay. Now, they have pictures here too, but I wanted to be able to zoom in. Okay. Get my light back up there. Make sure this is still showing. Perfect. All right. We have first, this is criminal complaint against Barry Black. And that was that sheriff that wrote that, David Baugh's office. We have the field where the Klan rally was held in Cana, Virginia. Carroll County Courthouse in Hillsville, Virginia. The Pennsylvania Klan flag, realm of Pennsylvania. And we have the Virginia Supreme Court in Richmond, Virginia. And you can also see, like I said, they're very thorough, and I'll put this stuff in, this whole link will be down in the sourcing, but they have the trial transcript, they have the Supreme Court decisions, and then like if you're a teacher or whatever, they have teaching guides, study guides and stuff on here too. And you can order this whole series from here. It's a really good website. Okay, back to the podcast.
A fundamental principle of free speech law is that the government is supposed to be neutral in the world of ideas and in symbols, which is another way that we communicate ideas.
This is Rodney Smola. After David Baugh represented Barry Black at the trial level, Smola took over the case as it wound its way up to the Supreme Court. And he argued that if the government punishes you for displaying a particular symbol,
In this case, a burning cross.
a burning cross, if the government punishes you for that, then the government is deciding which ideas are okay to express. And that's not what America is all about.
In some countries of the world, it's a crime to show a swastika. In Europe, because of the Nazi experience. In the United States, I hate it, but you can wear a swastika. In the United States, you can wear just about anything you want. And so we argued that this law was void because of that.
Yeah, if you single out a symbol, then you're in a sense exalting it in a way as either more sacred or more profane than other symbols, and we're not really supposed to do that.
Right. The government's not to ban them or give preference to somebody's symbols. The whole point of our free speech tradition is you can be a communist. You can join the Klan. You can say, I believe in the views of ISIS and be protected under the First Amendment. You can't go farther and start down the road to doing bad things, but you can, in the abstract, be a bigot, as my friend David Baugh would say. You have a right to be a bigot.
Mm-hmm.
Just like David Baugh, Rod Smola was an ardent supporter of our First Amendment right to say things that are unpopular, offensive, even intimidating. And, just like David Baugh, he agreed to take the case.
I was the classic ACLU liberal pro-free speech lawyer that repeated the mantra, I can hate your message, but I defend your right to say what you want to say. And we can't go arresting people just because we are convinced that their message is evil. It's got to be worse than that. It's got to be some really close connection to violence, either trying to incite people to engage in violence. So you're saying, come on, let's go do this bad thing. Or trying to threaten people. You're using your speech to truly in a palpable sense, scare and threaten people directly. The Klan guys weren't directing this to anybody. They didn't even know anybody was around. The cross burning would have been visible from a highway, but that would have been random, whoever happened to pass by. So I knew that, and I knew the text of this law. I put two and two together. That's not a crime. That's protected under our free speech principles.
Is a burning cross on private property protected under our free speech principles? We're about to find out.
We'll hear argument now in Virginia against Black.
Okay, so the government is supposed to be neutral. In this case, Virginia is decidedly not neutral. It's saying that a cross is, in fact, different from all other symbols. Here's Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg questioning the attorney for Virginia. His name is William Hurd.
You have said that the burning cross is a symbol like no other. And so this is a self-contained category. What about other things that are associated with the Klan? For example, the white robes and the mask. Are they also symbols that the state can ban, or is there something about the burning cross that makes it unique?
Justice Ginsburg, there's several things about the burning cross that make it unique. First, it is the symbol that the Klan has used to threaten bodily harm. The connection, if you will, in a history is between the burning cross and ensuing violence, not so much between people wearing white sheets and ensuing violence. But in terms of delivering symbols and delivering threats, it really is unique. It says we are close at hand. We don't just talk, we act. And it deliberately invokes the precedent of 87 years of cross burning as a tool of intimidation. And it's not simply a message of bigotry, it's a message that bodily harm is coming. And this is not something that we just made up. Cross burning has that message because for decades the Klan wanted to have that message because they wanted that intimidation.
For 5,000 years, the white man has been the supreme race.
The fiery cross has remained the Klan symbol. And
in a few short months, 5 murders, 13 alleged members of the Ku Klux Klan charged with acts of harassment, intimidation, and violence throughout the South.
And so it rings a little hollow when the Klan comes to court and complains that our law treats that burning cross as having exactly the message that they, for decades, have wanted it to have.
That was William Hurd back in 2002 at the Supreme Court. He was arguing on behalf of the Virginia law, saying that the state should be able to criminalize cross burning completely. We spoke with Hurd recently.
Bill, the lawyers for Barry Black say that they believe strongly in the First Amendment and the right to say things that are offensive. Do you believe in that right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And those who believe strongly in the First Amendment often have some disagreement around the edges, if you will. Now, there's no doubt that statutes can be passed to ban what the court calls a true threat. True threats are not protected by the First Amendment.
Can you describe what a true threat is?
A true threat is a communication made with the intent of placing the listener in fear of death or bodily harm. Because that right there is something that the law should guard against.
So is burning a cross so much of a true threat, so clearly a harbinger of violence, that the government should be able to single it out and ban it completely? You heard Joey Seacrest. You heard the Penrods. They say they never intended to threaten anyone. They say it was just an initiation ceremony.
But William Hurd and the state of Virginia, joined by the U.S. Justice Department, made the case that the burning cross is itself threatening.
Providing a signal that the violence may actually
U.S. Attorney Michael Dreeben is arguing that the very sight of a burning cross has historically been intimidating because it was often followed by actual violence.
Pervasive fear that
all of a sudden, in the middle of Dreeben's argument, something unexpected happens.
So I was watching Dreeben have this conversation with Kennedy, who is the most absolutist First Amendment advocate on the court at that point.
NPR's Nina Totenberg.
And Dreeben is saying that the cross is a symbol of fear. And suddenly I hear this voice from a place on the bench I don't normally hear the voice, and it's a very different voice, and it's Clarence Thomas.
Mr. Dreeben, aren't you understating the effects of the burning cross?
Lo and behold, Thomas interrupted, pounded the table almost, and said, a burning cross in the United States of America with its history is very different than any other kind of symbol. He thinks that Dreeben is not going far enough, that he's not saying how terrifying a burning cross is to Black people, and that he's sugarcoating it.
Here's Barry Black's attorney, Rodney Smolla.
The courtroom was already quiet, but it got quieter. I mean, everybody was electrified. And he goes into this almost Shakespearean soliloquy.
Clarence Thomas never speaks. It makes the news when Justice Thomas speaks.
Yeah, which is what made this so memorable.
Now, it's my understanding that we had almost 100 years of lynching and activity in the South by the Knights of Camellia and the Ku Klux Klan. And this was a reign of terror, and the cross was a symbol of that reign of terror. Isn't that significantly greater than intimidation or a threat?
Well, I think they're coextensive, Justice Thomas, because it is...
Well, my fear is, Mr. Dreeben, that you're actually understating the symbolism and the effect of the burning cross, and indeed that it is unlike any symbol in our society. There was no other purpose to the cross. There was no communication of a particular message. It was intended to cause fear and to terrorize a population.
Justice Thomas broke his years-long silence to suggest that a burning cross is not only the threat of terror, it not only precedes terror, a burning cross is terror.
I have to say, where I'm from, like, it really is, because when the Klan had the foothold from Barry Black in the 90s, they were recruiting in my small town, and there was two brothers and that I was very good friends with, and one of the brothers ended up joining the Klan, but they're handing out pamphlets on our corner near our local card shop, Hallmark, and they held a cross burning in one of our farming communities out on one of the local farms. And I didn't see it, of course, because I was out on the farm, but just the mere fact of knowing that it was happening and going on in a community that you go to, local bars there, a pizza place and stuff, that very act is so terrorizing and terrifying. And just knowing it's occurring, like the utter fear. And I'm white, right? So there's nothing that I have to fear as a cis white woman, but it was just utterly the fear in the community was, I don't know how to explain it if you haven't experienced it or knew that a cross burning was going on in your area and when it was happening, but it is utterly terrifying. It really is. It is pure terror. And that's what it's meant to do.
Here's Virginia's attorney, William Hurd.
Justice Thomas interrupted with a question suggesting that this really was not speech at all, that this burning of a cross was an instrument of terror. And you could have heard a pin drop in the courtroom when he finished.
It was very powerful and very palpable that it changed the tone of the argument. And a case that looked like a slam dunk, we're going to strike it down and uphold the lower court, turned out to be very different.
He put it like an historian, but it had that personal quality of an African-American kid in Georgia seeing these cross burnings and the Knights of Camellia. And he knew the history well.
Again, Rodney Smolla.
And I'll tell you two things as this happened. First, Justice Stephen Breyer, who sits next to Justice Thomas on the bench, put his arm on Justice Thomas's back, like, I feel your pain. So I saw that. And then I saw Justice Scalia looking at his close friend Clarence Thomas from across the bench, and I saw Justice Scalia's facial expression change. And then he looked directly at me with this pugnacious look. And I couldn't prove it in a court of law, but I interpreted it as, wait till you get up here, buddy. And I felt at that second that we'd lost the case. We went from me being certain we were going to win the case to me thinking,
You can't
oh
walk
my
across the
goodness,
laptop. You sit on my lap.
everything has just been flipped on its head.
So up to this point, the justices had heard Virginia's argument that cross-burning is an outright threat. Next up was Rodney Smolla, who, remember, is defending Barry Black and the Klan. He made a split-second decision to directly respond to what Clarence Thomas had just said.
Kind of like a quarterback calling an audible. So I walked up to the podium and I said, Justice Thomas, every word you said is true. Everything you said is correct.
As powerful as that point is, and I totally accept it.
But this speech is still protected by the First Amendment.
So do you think that the questions addressed to you were different in tone or substance than the ones addressed to the other debaters?
Yes. So I think to that point, the argument wasn't emotionally charged, and it didn't seem to get at the core of our sort of identity. I thought the 30 minutes that I got were as raw as you get in terms of exploring what free speech means, the history of racism in America. Every justice was asking me antagonistic questions in the sense that they were looking for a way to rule against us.
You can go even beyond
Why
that.
isn't this just a regulation of a particularly virulent form of intimidation? And why can't the state regulate such things?
Isn't your argument an argument that would have been sound before the cross, in effect, acquired the history that it has?
It's attacking people, threatening their lives and limb.
100 years of history.
Isn't it also a kind of Pavlovian signal? So that when that signal is given, the natural human response is not recognition of a message, but fear.
And then Justice Scalia, it's like he said to Justice Thomas telepathically, I am going to do everything I can to win this case. And he just came after me mercilessly. And his theme was that to burn a cross is indistinguishable from taking out a gun and brandishing a gun and threatening someone with a gun.
Yeah, I dare say that you would rather see a man with a rifle on your front
But they
lawn
went hard, and rightfully so.
at night. You'd rather see a man with a rifle.
This podcast was done really well.
Your Honor, I concede that. However,
The whole purpose of that is to terrorize.
as powerful as that point is, and I totally accept it.
Many of the justices seemed now to embrace this idea that a burning cross is like a weapon.
So it was the argument I was the most concerned with, that I feared the most. It's that so often the cross burning had been the forerunner of some evil Klan act. They would burn the cross and go out and commit a lynching, burn the cross and go out and engage in a bombing, burn the cross and go out and ride by, a house to scare people. That it had become a kind of Pavlovian trigger for intimidation. And it had gathered through history enough connection to intimidation so that we could say it's always intimidating.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Robert Siegel.
And I'm Melissa Block. The Supreme Court today upheld state laws that make cross-burning a crime where the purpose of the burning is intimidation. NPR Legal Affairs correspondent Nina Totenberg reports.
The vote was 6-3 with no single opinion commanding a majority. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote the bulk of the opinion. The First Amendment guarantee of free speech is not absolute, she noted, and in light of cross-burning's long and pernicious history as a signal of impending violence, it can be banned if it can be proved it's aimed at intimidation.
The Supreme Court's ruling was nuanced because they conceded that burning a cross can mean different things at different times. Here's Justice Sandra Day O'Connor.
The act of burning a cross may mean that the person is engaging in intimidation, or it may mean only that the person is engaged in core political speech. The hallmark of the protection of free speech under the First Amendment is to allow free trade in ideas. The protections afforded by the First Amendment, however, are not absolute, and the government may prohibit true threats. We hold that a state consistent with the First Amendment may ban cross-burning carried out with the intent to intimidate.
So if the cross was burned to threaten,
and if the government can prove that,
then it doesn't get First Amendment protection.
Exactly.
While a burning cross does not always convey a message of intimidation, often the cross burner intends that the recipients of the message fear for their lives. And when a cross burning is used to intimidate, few, if any, messages are more powerful.
Now, I believe the Virginia statute didn't require that you prove intimidation. It basically said that all cross burning is illegal because it's all intimidation.
Right. And so Barry Black's conviction was thrown out because simply burning a cross at your initiation ceremony, that's allowed in America. The First Amendment allows abhorrent speech. Defending that abhorrent speech, however, has taken a toll on both David Baugh and Rodney Smolla. Let's start with Baugh.
I don't know if I would take the Black case again if it was today. I don't know.
Why not?
To believe in the Constitution takes a lot of faith, just like believing in a religion takes a lot of faith. So there comes a point where maybe I'm getting older, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it.
Well, I still want to get to the why. I mean, you just spoke very eloquently.
I believe that in defending it, I'm becoming an enabler. It's loss of faith. Any believer starts questioning their faith.
That's interesting.
David Baugh and Rodney Smolla are now questioning that Oliver Wendell Holmesian maxim that if everyone speaks their mind, the marketplace of ideas will sort it out, that ultimately, eventually, the truth will prevail.
I think the way they end this podcast is very good, considering where we are today and the climate and the administration that we're in and just everything that we've been going through. I really like the ending to this and how everything was summarized with these lawyers.
I don't find the truth argument all that convincing anymore because I see bad stuff proliferate. It's kind of doesn't go necessarily with our factual experience, particularly in this wild world we're in right now where people will say anything and everything and the fact checkers don't seem to matter. People just keep repeating, the falsehoods. So I don't think we've abandoned our views on free speech, but I think, put it this way, they're more mature and they're more balanced.
It's hard to keep the faith when lies are so loud.
Yes.
And the truth is so quiet. But what's the alternative? Leave it up to the state legislatures to decide which speech is permissible and which is forbidden?
You may be confident that if you're in charge, you're going to be able to tell the good from the bad. But look, it's possible in a democracy like ours to have people in the government that will start banning stuff that you and I would find wrong to ban. In the end, for me, the tiebreaker is this idea, do you trust your government to make these decisions? And the answer should be generally, no, we don't. Because governments can make bad decisions for all kinds of bad reasons, and we don't want a truth court. We don't want
we don't.
Orwell's truth squads making these decisions.
There are only two sides in the case, the client and the government. The Constitution is a brick wall that protects him from them. When they start taking down those bricks, they can get to me. That wall must be maintained.
Yes, and it's crumbling right now.
David Baugh and Rodney Smolla are living with a kind of cognitive
There are
dissonance.
cracks
and
in the
really
wall.
all Americans are. The First Amendment allows abhorrent speech, and that keeps all of us free.
Unprecedented was produced by me, Matthew Schwartz, and my co-host, Mike Vuolo.
If you love the show, tell your friends, tell your family.
Okay, that was that for that podcast. I thought it was really good, and presenting updates on the case and talking to the sheriff and the gentleman who was at the original cross burning, and playing, the footage from the Duke University series, which I was able to go to the original site and play that for you, for everybody too. And I just wanted to briefly read some stuff from the SPLC Center as well. That is the Southern Poverty Law Center about the Ku Klux Klan. Just a brief history, because there are books written about the Klan. There are research papers. I mean, there's stuff everywhere. But just a quick brief article that they have here, some key points from it. So, the Ku Klux Klan, with its long history of violence, is the oldest and most infamous of American hate groups. Although Black Americans have typically been the Klan's primary targets, adherents also attack Jewish people, persons who have immigrated to the United States, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. Top takeaways. In 2024, the Ku Klux Klan underwent notable reconfigurations among its ranks. Two of the larger factions, the Old Glory Knights and the Loyal White Knights, either faded from relevance or ceased operations altogether. In the wake of these dissolutions, newer groups such as the Maryland White Knights and the Sacred White Knights emerged, gaining traction from members of the defunct chapters. This year has also seen an increase in collaborative efforts between Klan groups and other white supremacist organizations. The United Klan Nation notably co-hosted events with the Aryan Freedom Network, while anti-Semitic Christian identity and Klan-affiliated networks, including the Church of the Keystone Knights and Kingdom Identity Ministries, overlapped through shared leadership. Key moments. Newer and recently revitalized chapters have led efforts to gain a stronger foothold in mainstream American society. Historically, this pattern aligns with a familiar Klan tactic: heightened visibility during periods of actual or perceived socio-political strife. This year saw a persistent focus on online activism, marked by a gradual shift from niche platforms such as Stormfront, MeWe, and Gab to larger social networks including Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. The emergence of the Maryland White Knights and the Sacred White Knights underscores this reshuffling. The Maryland White Knights appears to have formed from the remnants of the Old Glory Knights, while the Sacred White Knights seem to have risen from the dissolution of the Loyal White Knights. Meanwhile, the Ku Klux Knights have resurfaced, and the Silent Knights are actively recruiting. Another key connection has been between the United Klan Nation and the Aryan Freedom Network, evident through shared events and mutual promotion. Perhaps most emblematic of the Klan's reemergence was the Trinity White Knights, who led the Klan flyering efforts this year and closely monitored the political landscape for opportunities to enter mainstream conversations. Mere days after President Donald Trump's inflammatory claim that Haitian immigrants were eating dogs and cats, the Trinity White Knights began distributing flyers and recruiting based on that dangerous and unfounded narrative. What's ahead? While Klan activity is likely to remain relatively stagnant overall, 2025 may bring further reshuffling and reorganization within Klan ranks due to the recent collapse of major chapters like the Old Glory Knights and the Loyal White Knights. Chapters such as the Trinity White Knights, who have proven particularly active this year, will likely continue to be prominent in the coming year. Moreover, with the anti-immigration and anti-diversity agenda of the new Trump administration, the Klan may increasingly seek mainstream legitimacy, attempting to move further from the fringes of society. This prospect is bolstered by the enduring appeal of slogans from the 1920s era's Klans, such as True Americanism and America for Americans, which persist as central themes in Klan rhetoric and literature. These ideas, powerful in their nostalgia and nationalist appeal, suggest that dismissing the Klan as a relic as a relic or conflating it with broader white supremacist movements, as is often done in right-wing media, could obscure the group's specific and ongoing efforts to adapt and insert itself into contemporary American discourse. And then they offer some background also on the KKK, and you can read, and I'll post that in the notes as well. But I just wanted to kind of give a background on what the KKK is doing currently and how they're restructuring, and they haven't gone away, even though they've dwindled in numbers. Like, they're always reinventing themselves and finding new ways to recruit, and with this administration. But I will post that in the notes as well when I put this live. And then they have a map on here too. Let me share this tab here instead of the 2024 hate groups. Let me make sure that's zoomed in good. Okay. Whoop. And you can see where they're located. And they kind of go down through all of that for keeping an eye on them and whatnot, and knowing where they are located at, though. So yeah, they've dwindled in size, but they're still around, and they're always looking to make a comeback. So yeah, so that was very black. Like I said, I had done that research for Poker and Politics. It's a 24-hour stream that we did to help them, and I kind of wanted to just kind of get this out there because I had the research and present it before I accidentally deleted some research or tabs that I had, or bookmarks or whatever. But yeah, that's it. And I will be uploading this to share to everybody, share with everybody, and I'll be in the comments when it goes live for a premiere. I've never done that before, so we'll see how that works. And yeah, so that's it. Thank you, everybody, and see you soon. Stay tuned for the next episode.
We're going to have to be smart. We're going to have to be strategic. We're going to have to be aggressive. I'm an alpha guy.
I'll flip a table every time you aren't getting by.
Let's go. Just push.
It's all psychological warfare. We know what they are doing.
For Trump. Da, 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 da.
If shit goes wrong, I will literally have to leave the country. Stop that.
Land my initial plane.
Okay, hi-fi. This isn't the hi-fi show.
Good night. Good night. Nighty night.